If I could increase my lifestyle to a higher level of Epicureanism or hedonism, then I would like to live in peace, far, far away from the maddening crowd, far away from busy roads. When I was living in the Algarve, which is on this beautiful, incredible coastline in Portugal, which borders Spain, for those of you who are far-flung, I lived in a 10th floor apartment building, which was only 2 years old, and it was literally 30 seconds from the most incredible coast beachfront nature reserve that you can imagine. The incredible sandy coves and cliffs of the Algarve. And I used to walk for hours and hours every single day. There was never a day that didn't go by when I wasn't on one of those beautiful beaches. And I had a mountain bike, and so I could visit villages up to 20 miles away in any given day. And the weather was always beautiful. And even in the heart of winter, like now, in the Algarve, it will be 20-25 degrees Celsius, of course, which is fantastic, perfect, optimum weather. So if I wanted to work towards anything, then it would be spending these winter months in that domain. But there are compromises that we have to make, and many people will make many compromises. And one of the major compromises people will make is that they won't go and live anywhere else, even though the world is the most beautiful and incredible diverse place. People will visit some places on holiday and they'll go, oh yeah, well, my mum's here, my dad's here, my family's here, my kids are here, my friends are here, and all this different sorts of stuff. Whereas when I was younger, all through my life really, up until, last 10 years mainly, I used to go and live in other countries, other parts of the world, and I never imposed any restrictions upon myself. And so I've seen and experienced a great deal. And that makes me somewhat more relaxed and sedentary these days. But back in the day, I had a lot of money. It wasn't too many occasions when I never had at least £50,000 in my bank, usually £100,000. And when you've got that amount of money, well, you just jump on a plane, stay in hotels all over the world. Money isn't an issue. Eating at restaurants 24/7 and living a blissful life. And so I've travelled many places and had incredible experiences. But now my life is much more sedentary because I've cut my suit according to my cloth. Now, I can't, let's just say I can't. I think it's probably I can't wear this business entrepreneurial hat like I did when I was younger. The level of thinking I do now, which is psychological and philosophical, I applied a similar level to creating my businesses and creating the blueprint of what I expected from the world. And it was incredible, absolutely amazing, an earth experience second to none. But now I have moulded a certain reality. I'm just watching the buzzard. You know, these buzzards, they've got a wingspan of like 4.5 feet. Quite huge birds. So I've moulded a certain reality for myself. And of course there are pros and cons. I don't have infinite amounts of money, but I have infinite amounts of freedom. But that freedom is curtailed by not having infinite amounts of money and infinite amounts of energy. Back in the day, I was seriously like the epicenter of a star, pure nuclear fission, just self-generating more energy than I could ever use. And so these days, instead of walking upon those golden sands with that turquoise water and those incredible cliffs and caves and all the rest of it, I walk around somewhere which is pretty mundane, to be honest. You know, a few little wooded areas nestled among these ley lines to hell, which you can always hear in the distance. I don't know whether there's going to be a time in my life when I want to change things, and I wouldn't need to do too much change if I wanted to earn money from what I was doing. I'd just start an Instagram account and I would put teasers up many times a day, 30-second teasers, and direct people to my YouTube channel. And I'd have to start a new YouTube channel under a different name with a different address and all that different sorts of things to sever the tie of this avatar here, because this avatar has been shadow banned, blacklisted, marked. I'm a marked man. Of course, anyone who is speaking out against the powers that be is a marked man. Now, of course, we've all listened to many stories about people having their whole lives ruined because, depending on the level which you are at, if you are a big platform and you're out there, then you might end up dead. You will most certainly have death threats, and some of them will be serious, and there will be very large organisations, institutions with infinite amounts of money at their disposal, which will have one thing, one direction, and that's to ruin you. So we've got people like this all around the world. You know, Alex Jones, he was ruined effectively. He came back because he's got a very powerful spirit. People like David Icke, he doesn't lend himself to having too many things taken away from him. He lives in an apartment, and the apartment, I'm pretty sure, is rented because it's just in a small block. And he drives, last time I knew, he was driving a Mondeo. And, you know, he's not ostentatious, and so there's nothing there that the powers that be can compromise him on. They can't shut his mouth up. He operates from a tiny room in his tiny apartment, and he communicates with the world. And so that's a compromise he's made. He's made his own compromises before other people do. Let's say like Russell Brand. Russell Brand currently is facing rape charges, trumped up rape charges, and he could go to prison for this. They've been hunting him for a long time because of things he said. Candace Owens, apparently she's had death threats from President Macron and wife. a boyfriend, husband. And she says it came from a very, very trustworthy source. There are people with infinite amounts of money that want to see the back of you. Now, fortunately for me, the most that's happened to me is that I get a little bit shadow banned on a 2-bit fucking channel. Nothing else. I've had no other restrictions imposed upon me because I'm not a big enough threat. In actual fact, I'm probably not a threat at all to them in any real sense, but because I have encroached on being a threat by the things I have been conveying, then I've been blacklisted. I've been written off. And albeit I can still set up a YouTube channel, whether they can prevent me entirely or not, I don't know. But if they know that I'm actually still on YouTube, because once they ban you, they say that you can never have a channel again. Of course, you just set up another channel, with another name and another telephone number. But they've got the IP address, and the IP address, of course, is registered with them. And he's like, oh, here he is again. Well, we'll just fucking put the breakers on him. And so that's what they've done. Now, if they hadn't put the breakers on me, then my channel would be, pretty large by now. All these years have been going. 10 years ago, I had a channel with 25,000 subscribers, and I'd only been going for about 2 years. And so, if I hadn't have lost my channels and I hadn't taken them down myself, I've had plenty. I've had about 6 or 8, and sometimes in my own frustration, I just took them down because it's like speaking to the dead. But if I hadn't done that, if I'd have towed the line like big channels out there, then I could have been earning a lot of revenue from that. Because back in the day, I was earning £150 a month from AdSense, and I wasn't even trying. And all my videos being esoteric, there is very little anybody could put an advertisement to. But I was still earning that much. But if I wanted to change things around, and I started to make modifications, and I don't even put keywords in the description box. I don't do that. I don't do any description. I just put the link to my other channels and my book. That's all I do. That's all I can be bothered to do. I don't even consider the best possible clickbait title. I just put obscure titles up because I'm not interested. Now, because I'm not interested in that, I get afforded this. I get afforded complete freedom. If I was business oriented and wanted to attract more viewers, then I'd have more money, I'd have more of an obligation to the channel, I'd have more work and less time to do this. So I look at my life and I go, I don't need any more money. Sure, more money would be useful. So it's useful. I could buy myself another pair of trousers. I've got 2 pairs of trousers, you may have noticed. And if I had, I need a good few thousand. To get this tooth done cost me 3,500. So if I, to make any difference in my life, really, I'd need to have £50,000 in the bank, because £10,000 I could spend it in an instant, upgrading my electronics, getting my tooth done, buying a few clothes, and maybe I'd buy a small moped for days when I couldn't be bothered to cycle. But other than that, I'd spend all the money I had continuing the freedom, only in a more beautiful environment. So when we look at our lives, people, you assess your life. Do you ever assess your life? Do you ever think there could be an alternative? Do you ever weigh up the pros and cons? Do you ever look at your mundane life, or your family situation, and ask yourself, am I going anywhere? Am I doing anything? Am I content? What's going on with my life? Have I lived? Or am I going to die without really seeing any of the world or doing anything? And then you can say to yourself, well, do I want to see anything? Do I want to do anything? Not many people do. A few package tours, yeah, they'll do a bit of that. But other than that, they'll do nothing. So all I've got a few roads to walk around, and there's a little wood which I've been 1,000 times in. You know, it's very uneventful, and unless I get on my bike and go for 10 miles, then there's nowhere interesting to go really. And so I do, to some extent, what everybody does. Closes down the options due to the logistics or the difficulty or the expense and things like that. Whereas when I was younger and affluent, the world was my oyster. I just used to think about where haven't I been, and I'd just go online, I'd just book a ticket, and then the next thing I'd know I'd be there. And I'm like, wow, isn't life a blast? It's like quantum jumping. We actually quantum jump, only we appear to have some sort of a memory of the lineage and time involved before we get to one place and from another. But this lineage of the actual travelling, that can be very, very diminished, minimised. And if you're not interested in that facet of it, i.e. on the buses, in the taxis, on the plane, in the airport, all of that despicable nonsense, if you just read a book for the whole duration, like I always used to, I'd just start reading the book from the beginning to the end, and then I'd find myself there. What did I experience really? I've been an automaton all that travelling. I just closed myself down to it mostly, and I'd extracted information from the book, and then that information pertained to my journey. So it wasn't anything which had a lineage to it per se. I wasn't conscious of sitting in a taxi for an hour and a half up the motorway and all that nonsense. No, just chose another state of consciousness. But what we find is we enter into situations whereby we become obliged with a vocation. If you've been to university, you've got a degree in something, then you're pretty well obliged to use that degree for a vocation. And if you're not, then you're still going to use your degree as an entrance into some other variety of work, which is going to have very similar demands on you. They're going to expect you to be, literate and articulate, and have a good sense of timekeeping and respect for colleagues and all those sort of things that we're supposed to learn going through schools, colleges and universities. We become conditioned, don't we? And so we've had a high level of conditioning, which is difficult to escape. How many people which have got PhDs, could just fling a sleeping bag and a rucksack over their shoulder and just go where the wind blows. They find that incredibly, immensely too compromising, because the structure that they'd known all their lives wouldn't exist. And that uncertainty is terrifying for most. When I'm speaking seemingly in a derogatory way about people, their lack of thinking, their lack of reasoning capacity and all that different sorts of stuff, well, look here, people. Can you see this? There's a hue of new life already, and we're not even in January. Now, I'm expecting the first sign of leaves to be out within a fortnight, because it's getting earlier and earlier. The seasons, they're shifting. It's only just become officially winter, and now the flora and fauna consider it's almost spring. They've not experienced the cold weathers that their ancestry has suffered, that their collective consciousness and unconsciousness has experienced through hundreds of years. That they are in a new, look over here, they're in a new realm. All these berries, the brightness. Now, naturally, these are winter berries, but they've been around a long time before winter. They didn't actually just grow in the last couple of days since we've officially been in the winter. So when we look at these things, we can discern that the world doesn't pay attention to the impositions of man, telling it that in the northern hemisphere it's now winter. Well, things are changing, people. Things are changing. So people that have been conditioned and they haven't been confronted with too many real big issues in their lives. You know, it's not like their life has been threatened almost every week of their lives like it would have been in the old days, where, you know, societies were pretty lawless, and, you know, there'd be murders every single day, hundreds of them in any given city. But now things are very, very different due to the level of conditioning. So that's what we're dealing with. That's what you all are confronted with. You know, more so than I. And the reason why I haven't been compromised by too much conditioning is because the mould of my conditioning was broke when I was very young. And I became a renegade, an outsider. And every time I went to school, I was the outsider. I didn't know what they was doing. I didn't know what they was learning. It all seemed double Dutch to me. But because of that, I had the freedom then to use my own mind. And I looked at them, and I observed them, and I considered that it's a load of bollocks. Look at what they're doing, all sitting facing one person who's supposed to be teaching them, but all this person is doing is copying some stuff from out of a book, which someone has told them to tell everybody. Well, that never really struck me as educating people. It struck me as indoctrinating, as putting people on the hypnosis, because all I remember when I was at school was copying stuff from the blackboard. And in those days, ladies and gentlemen, it was blackboard and white chalk. And the teacher just used to copy shit from a book, just standing there looking at the book and writing shit. And then we'd just be mindlessly just writing down the words. We wouldn't be reading it, we wouldn't be interested in it, we'd just have to write this shit down. And that's why people coming out of these institutions don't know anything. Whereas I thought, fuck that, I'm not doing it. And I didn't do it. And so then they expelled me from every school they ever went to. And so then I was a renegade. I was a free man. And I was out in the natural world just like I am now. Looking, observing, feeling, sensing. And that's when my whole sensibility opened up. Now I've just posted a Google excerpt which states 53 senses. 53. And I've pinned it to the top of the last video. Now, these same 53 senses, well, they're not all listed in this excerpt I put up, but I list them in my book. Senses that people haven't even stopped to contemplate. They wouldn't even think they are their senses. If you ask yourself, anybody, how many senses do you have, then everyone's going to go, 5, maybe the 6th sense, so 6, and that's it. Really? Well, for those of you that got my book, you might remember a little bit the 53 senses, and you might want to go over those again. If not, just put 53 senses in Google and see if you get the list. And I'll list all different sorts of stuff. Like the sense of being mobile. I've got a sense of being mobile. I've got a sense of gravity. I've got a sense of being upright. I've got a spatial sense of being in the world. I've got a sense of feeling pretty small when I look at the stars. I've got a sense of the wind blowing on my face. I could go on and on and on. Now, the person that wrote these 53 senses, he said, you could think of another 53 yourself. It's literally endless. And how many people apply themselves to that sort of thing? How many people have a sense of their own existence in a spatial world? How many people have the sense of being absolutely connected to the oneness of it, and so thus refuting any space between you and the world? There is no space, it's all filled with something, and it's the same isness and oneness that we are all encapsulated within. A sense of expanse of consciousness, a sense of narrow parameter of consciousness. There must have been 1,000 times I've proclaimed my genius, and you know, I'm being facetious, and it's born with frustration. It's born out of frustration for being a person that is very aware of all these senses, being very aware of a great deal of what is to be aware of when we are actually living. There's an enormous amount to be aware of, and all my videos, they've been speaking about these things that I've become aware of and I've noticed. And then when I say these videos, I give my little monologues, and they fall on deaf ears. Very, very few people are remotely even inspired just a little bit. Just to go, yeah, fuck yeah. And by the way, it is only those that go, fuck yeah, my whole family's fucking dead. They're fucking zombies. You know, I look at them and I go, you don't even know what you're fucking doing, do you? You're just automaton. Yeah. You start to feel really weird. And that's why some people gaze up at the stars and they think that they're not from here. Like I'm always saying, my level of consciousness is a very, very deep and old state of consciousness, which, being in this body, which is similar age to all you guys watching, respectively, then I go, well, why is it that I am vastly more conscious than most? The fact of it is, people, I've never met anyone that's more conscious than me. I have always been the teacher. I have always been the one that's just pointing things out. Can you see this? You see that? That is either blossom or it's the silver fur of a new leaf. What have I been telling you? What have I been telling you? Look at that. It's very beautiful and furry. It's like a goat willow. It may very well be a goat willow. The bark looks like it could very well be. Now, these buds are going to come out like shiny little willow buds, you know the weeping willows, they have a similar sort of thing. But these are going to open up into big plumages of yellow nectar. And they're going to be as bushy as foxes' tails. It's going to be beautiful. But you see, how many of you have noticed the onset of spring already? When we're only 2 days into the winter, people. We're 2 days into the winter, and yet spring is here. What I'm saying to you, people, listen very carefully. Every single thing that you have considered, that you've ever known, question it very, very carefully. Because what I'm saying to you is that every single thing that you considered that you know is just an idea. And if you pursue that idea, then you will very, very quickly replace it with another idea and another idea and another idea and another idea, until in the end you realize that there is only ideas and there is nothing else. And when people are so firm in their opinions, Dunning-Kruger, maybe they are scientists or they've got a leaning towards science. Oh, this is solid and that's real and all this stuff. Goodness me, you need to open your consciousness, people. You need to be studying a whole array of different subject matter. Okay, study science, study physicality. You can be a physicalist and you can have a great belief in the physical world, but you take some entheogens or you have a supernatural experience and that would shock you to your core. All of your silly science will come tumbling down like a fucking pack of cards. So what I'm saying to you all, stop thinking that you know something and just keep very, very open that you're only just scraping the surface of a few ideas. Well, that's a beautiful sight to see. So I've shown you 2 instances of new life, and we're not even in March, people. We're not in spring. As far as the calendar goes, the world knows what it is, and at this moment in time and this particular place, the world knows it's in spring. Now here was a whole bunch of blackberry briar, and the fruit was amazing. They've butchered it all. Why did they butcher it all? It's not like we're struggling for space around here. Those briars, all that fruit for animals and cover for birds and, different sorts of animals and things like that. You see, you look down here and there's a hole going down there. So we all know, we've heard the story of Brer Rabbit, haven't we? Well, Brer Rabbit used to always tease the fox and run into the briar. Lots of animals love the sanctuary of the briar. For those of you that watch my videos and think to yourself, I'd like to be more aware. What can I do to gain awareness? Well, to be honest, people, if you have been hypnotized through the system, you're going to find it really, really difficult. Really difficult. Because this freedom of awareness pertains to those that haven't been moulded, haven't been indoctrinated, haven't been hypnotized. Our minds were always free to develop through what we perceived in the world of our own accord. And me, I spent many years when I should have been in school, but no school would have me, because after I'd been expelled from a couple or three, then the reputation got around and the schools wouldn't accept me. And so then invariably, I used to have to leave the house along with my brothers and sisters when they went to school. I couldn't come back to the house until it was the end of school, when the other kids came back. So what did I do? I was around the nature. I just used to walk for miles and miles. And very often through the winter I was fucking freezing cold and I was hungry. I never got a packed lunch. I was never given a packed lunch. I was never like, hey, take this packed lunch, it's freezing cold today. No, it was fuck off and don't come back until school's finished. It's your own fault. And so I went out and I didn't eat or drink anything unless I drank from a fucking river or spring or something, or foraged some berries or fruits in the summertime. But in the wintertime there's nothing. And so what did I do? I just looked for ways to keep warm, and well, I reckon that keeping mobile is the best way, because the more I sat down and tried to cuddle up and shelter myself from the elements and that, I just became more cold and sleepy and then more cold. And so it was about keeping mobile. Just keep going. And when you keep going, then you see things. And I learned about the habitats of many animals, and I learned the differences between many things, and I sampled the fruits of many things. There was lots of things that I would always be eating things, and there was one occasion not too far in the past, only a few years ago, that I was cutting certain plants, stalks, let's say plants like hogweed, giant hogweed, right? Well, the giant hogweed, apparently, if you touch it on the skin and then you get sunlight on, it's going to blister you. And most certainly, if you put it in your mouth, it's going to blister your lips and things like that, so they say. And then the other one, which is similar to that variety of plant, which is kind of like, these plants are all like a celery genre, is the hemlock, the hemlock plant. Now, I always used to be putting things in my mouth, cutting things, and this hemlock plant, they have a hollow tube. And as a kid, I would have been seeking things out for a hollow tube, straight tube to use as a pea shoot and this sort of thing. And so I had to have it in my mouth. Now, there was something that hit the news around 1945 with kids using hemlock stalks for pea shooters, and several of them died in the village, and they didn't know what it was until they discovered that they'd been using these pea shooters made out of the stalk of hemlock. And so there's lots of ways, and then all different sorts of mushrooms. You only need to eat the tiniest little bit of a death cap and you are dead. And it's going to take you a long time. It will take you fucking 2 weeks whilst your liver deteriorates and rots inside your body. But I was fortunate in that I never came a crop up with any of the things that I was eating. And so we learn about things. Here again, look what's happening. Hear that? It's already happening, and it's not even January. So instead of believing and assuming what I'm saying, you have a subjective knowledge. You see things with your own eyes. You hear things with your own ears. You sense things with your own sensibility. That's knowledge, people. Everything else, relatively, is bullshit. You will only ever be able to say that you have known things in your life when you have experienced it. If someone tells you the terror of war, you'll go, oh, I know what terror is. It's when bombs are going off and it's when people die and this, that and the other. Have you ever even been close to anything like that? I've been a little bit close. I've heard the recoil, the blast of a shotgun as it was shot 10 feet away from me. I felt the impact of the lead as it splattered through my arm and hand. I felt the pain and the warm blood dripping down as my bare feet slipped on the warm blood on the polished tiles of my bedroom. That little bit was plenty to get a bit of an insight what war's about on a constant, ongoing basis. But still, what would it be like to be in a war? Unimaginable. For me, unimaginable. It's just 1,000 times being shot, I suppose. When you've got bombs blow, fucking hell. Absolutely horrendous. We couldn't possibly imagine what people have been through. And yet, so many people think they know it all. Oh, I know that. You know fuck all. Seriously. You know, this is one of the major facets of what it is to be an enlightened being. We become humble. And albeit, I don't display too many instantiations of my humble nature. Speaking like this, I'm telling you, and I've always told you I don't know anything. I'm banging on about things every fucking day of the week, but I'm telling you, I don't know anything. This world is vastly too complex. But, you know, more to the point, there just is nothing definitive. There simply isn't anything definitive. Because it all pertains to something else. It's all relational. And if you think that, oh, this is solid and this is definitive and the sun's there and that, well, ask yourself what you thinking that with. Don't tell me your brain. You can tell me your consciousness and I'll say, well, what? Whose consciousness? Do you think it's your consciousness? You don't even know where the fuck it is. Don't be telling me anything pertains to you. No, you are inside this bubble, this dream. And things are just appearing to be so. And just like many of the great, brilliant philosophers have said, everything is will and representation. It's Schopenhauer. Everything is ideas, forms and ideas, Plato. You know, Descartes telling you that, well, there's nothing he could depend upon with his senses at all. The only thing that gave him any inkling that he actually existed was the fact that he was thinking. Where do these thoughts come from? Nobody knows. So my channel, people, is philosophy. It's just a guy observing and speaking about what he is observing and putting a few pieces together. And then when people come on, oh, I don't believe that, oh, you're wrong. There's no right and there's no wrong. Trust me, people. Trust me. Right and wrong are ideas. The same as everything else. Everything is just a fucking idea. But when you become enlightened, then you realise that this thing called consciousness, the unfathomable nature of the cosmos, is genius. It's so super duper genius that our tiny little slither of consciousness simply isn't remotely adequate to work out a single thing within this realm. But what we can do, we can imagine, we can fantasize, we can pretend, and we can close the incredible nature of the cosmos right down to quantity. Now, this is one of the things that the philosopher René Guénon was speaking about, and some of you will remember a label about this book. It says something like the world just reducing everything to fucking quantity. And that's what the world's done. That's what science has done. Reduced everything to fucking numbers. Really? Is that what the world is? Is that what you are? Is that what consciousness is? Is it numbers? Is it on a computer? It's just ideas. It's just what our mind has done to try to make some rational, reasonable, logical, practicable sense of this fucking thing. We just need something which is just a little bit practicable, so we can continue our illusion and our delusion. So we know something, or this is this and that's that. Because just drifting around, being an enlightened being in a state of ecstasy, well, it's not going to plough any fields, is it? It's not going to plant any crops. It's not going to be cooking up any fucking meals. And so there's limitations to one's enlightenment. What do we do before enlightenment? We chop wood and we carry water. What do we do after enlightenment? We chop wood and we carry water. And the only difference is that you've seen something. You've had a level of awareness. You've had an introduction, the tiniest little introduction into something outside of your own fiction. You see? So when we look at the world, and then we see that what you would notice with all plants, they've already got next year's crop ready and waiting. You may think that nothing's grown. Oh, it's all going to grow in the spring. No, the brains of it have already produced next year's crop. And they started doing it from autumn, when all the leaves were falling and all the sap was retreating. Then they were producing next year's crop. But people don't realise that, they don't recognise that. But here's next year's crop. And these will progressively become more and more green and expand longer and longer until they're about that big, and then all these little scaly things will open up and they will release their seeds, because that's what they are. They're catkins. They are the seeds, or the pollen distributors. And so it's already there, laying dormant. Nobody sees it. Nobody recognises it. Now, just the thing about being outside, experiencing the changes in weather, in temperature, and differences in wind. It's a cold day today. I feel a coldness, even though I've got plenty of clothes on. I've got 2 pairs of trousers on, I've got some thick walking boots. My hands are freezing. My face is cold. I can feel a cold layer over my face, which is my skin. That's my skin, which is cold. You know when your nose gets cold and you want to rub it and breathe onto it and things like that? That's what the whole face is like. I'm experiencing that cold mask. And I'm out watching these grasses blowing. And I watch them throughout the whole of the year. These are bulrushes. The grasses of bulrushes. $50. Let's do another 10, shall we? Let's do another 10. And then when we look around and we ask ourselves, where are all the animals? What are they doing? Where do they live? Where have they gone when some of them go, like when birds migrate? Where have they gone? When they're coming back? Do some years birds decide it's not going to be that cold this year, I ain't going. And then other birds are flapping around, tweet, 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 come on, we're going down to Morocco. It's going to be fucking freezing here in a couple of weeks. And then there's a few birds going, nah, I think I'll stay. I don't feel cold. I feel alright. Are you sure? Yeah. I look at the sky every single day of my life. There's never ever been a single day in my life, given the opportunity, when I haven't looked, observed, contemplated, felt, admired, been in awe of the sky. Always changing, always different. How many people ever bother to look up? I once said to one of my neighbours, when there's beautiful, big, fluffy white clouds up in the sky on a summer's day, I said, wow, have you seen the clouds today? And he went, no, I can't look up, I can't. If I look up, I'll fall over. I said, really? Yeah, if I, put my head back, I'll fall over, I will. And I thought, well, I can stay perfectly straight and still like this. And I can put my eyes up like that. And so he didn't seem to think he could do that. Have you looked at the sky? No, I'll fall over if I look at the sky. Well, just put your eyes up. Oh, fuck me. There's a big sky up there, full of all beautiful clouds. I've never noticed in all my fucking life. I didn't know I had that ability, Aaron. Thank you very much for pointing that out to me. I had no fucking idea that I could just put my eyes up towards the top of my head and look at the sky. Kill that person. Oh, that's cruel. Why? How long have they been on this fucking planet? Never even saw the sky. Now, that person probably worked in a Walker's Crisp factory. From time to time, I like Walker's Crisps. Alright, let him live. Let him live. What? He's done 45 years in Walker's Crisp factory. Fucking commendable. Give that guy a fucking gold watch. I wouldn't be jealous in an instant. I wouldn't be jealous. Give him 10 gold fucking watches to wear around his breast. He's earned them, I'm telling you. And may he wear them with pride. Gonna have a look. Now, one of the things I've pondered about these squirrel drays is that every single one of them must have the carcass of a squirrel there within. Now, that one there is falling to pieces. It's a very, very old one. But it stands to reason that for those squirrels that don't die of accidents or predators and things like that, then when they get old and ill, then they're going to retreat back to somewhere warm to cuddle up. And so I would posit that every single one of these old drays has the carcass of a squirrel within. Wow. This is another goat willow. Now we can see that these goat willows, they are one of the very, very first to be adorning the world. And to look at the bark on a cracked willow, it's like that. It looks like it's all cracked, doesn't it? And these cracked willows they seem to be very brittle, because always in heavy winds they're always cracking and coming crashing down. And there's instantiations or instances of these all over this region, where these limbs will just splinter and crack and come cracking down, crashing down, tumbling down. Yes, so I'll be back and we'll see the development of these and others like them. Tastes a little bit mushroomy. Curious. Anyway, how many of you have got hours to while away listening to my musings and ramblings? Only those of you which have the commodity of time at your disposal. When you, like me, have afforded yourself 24 hours a day of freedom, only you will be able to sit down and go, oh, the Working Braves got an hour-long video. He's just walking around the nature, just talking about the first things that comes in his head. I'll spend an hour of my life listening to what he's got to say. How many of you are like, just give us the information, just give us the answer. I've only got fucking 20 minutes and I've got to be back to my night shift. I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Oh, I've got to do. 90% of you, 90% of you are captured. You're imprisoned, aren't you? Tragic, but someone's got to do it. So, what can I say? Well, I have to be grateful for that. I have to be grateful for everyone that paves my life into the road of simplicity and comfort. That's what people that are working do. All these cars and lorries running up and down, they're all paving the simplicity and comfort of my life. Many of them not directly, but collectively they are. They're all paying into the coffers of the British Crown, and the British Crown pays me. And so, everybody bottles my beer and picks my vegetables and manufactures my phones and all those sorts of things. And and I don't do anything. My only contribution to the world is my words, my wisdom, my philosophy. Well, we all got to do something, haven't we? We all have to do something. So I am paying something back into the coffers. I'm doing my bit. But not only am I doing my bit in that realm, but I'm spending all the money I get each month from King Charles. I spend every penny of it. And that's oil for the machine. And the oil that I am excreting into the machine helps keep things turning over. And it enables people to put food on their tables and pay for their rent and mortgages, because they are delivering foodstuffs and manufacturing clothes and wares from time to time I buy. And so I'm also contributing like that, you see. Interesting, isn't it? Even if people seemingly are not doing anything, as long as they are consuming, they are roundabout contributing. It seems a paradox, doesn't it? Oh, you do. You're just a useless eater. Well, you are eating the produce of somebody else's labour. And as long as it keeps being eaten, it must be being purchased. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's the merry-go-round of life. The exchange of energy. That's what it is, people. Anyhow, my hands are now literally like icicles. My fingers are like icicles. And I'm going to be heading back towards the busy road. I've done my bit for the day. I've been out for an hour to get out of the house. No gym today, anything like that. But just to get out of the house and experience the world and look at the world and see how it's getting along and exercise my senses. How many senses have I exercised today? Plenty. I could just keep reeling them off. Oh, my sense of blinking. My sense of blinking. Oh, the sense of my mouth coming up and down, my jaw. The sense of my articulation. The sense of my tongue sticking out. The senses are endless, people. So next time someone says to you, how many senses are there? Nobody ever say that, because you get indoctrinated with that from fucking kindergarten. Pure indoctrination. It wouldn't be so bad if the people that told you that said, look, here's the main senses. There are probably hundreds of thousands more. You think about those things and discover them yourself. What about in a class one day? Why wouldn't that be a good thing to do? The teacher stands before, children 4 and 5 years old and says, let's explore how many senses we can think of. And then the sense of being next to somebody, the sense of touching somebody, the sense of sitting on a chair, the sense of paying attention, the sense of being in the community, oh goodness me, the sense of wanting to go to the toilet, the sense of feeling a little bit hungry, the sense of feeling tired, the sense of feeling bored, the sense of feeling all excited and engaged. It's endless, people, it's endless. And so, people that think they know something definitively, think again. Just think again.